everybody. Today on Rahdo Runs Through, I am running through the month of May 2025. And folks, I'm going to be telling you about, I think, 13 new games that I played in the month of May. But I am not at home. I am actually at the UK Games Expo, United Kingdom Games Expo, UKGE in Birmingham. And the convention starts tomorrow. Today, I find myself at the Asmodee Retailer Day, where a bunch of different developers get to set up and show off their wares to all the different retailers that are showing up that might want to pick up some games for their shops and stores. I'm not even supposed to be in here, in all honesty, but I was able to get in and look at some new upcoming games. Some I can talk about, some I cannot. If you were to ask me what's my favorite thing I've seen so far, it's got to be, actually I'm walking right by it right now, it's got to be Bohemians. Where are you? There it is, down there. Bohemians from Portal Games. Folks, after hearing the pitch on this one, this has got to be my most anticipated game for the rest of the year. But there's a lot of other really cool stuff that I've seen as well. However, we're not here to talk about what's coming in the future. We're here to talk about my past and the games that Jen and I play. So, without any further ado, let's get going. Now, this is a countdown. Talk about my least favorite to my most favorite. And as good as it was, my least favorite game of the month has to be in the footsteps of Marie Curie. There is nothing wrong with this game. It is absolutely a charming, adorable, somewhat educational Euro-style game where we are contemporaries of Marie Curie trying to do radiological experiments. Now, the coolest thing about this game is that it comes with maybe the coolest dice tower, although it's a cube tower I've ever seen. The production of this is amazing. It's got to be one of the stickiest cube towers I've ever seen as well. And every round, some cubes are going to get dropped in to the tower. Not all the ones that go in will come out, or they might knock out other ones from a previous round, as you might imagine. And then players take turns grabbing those cubes and using them to conduct their experiments, converting ore into uranium and doing all kinds of things that are all based on the real timeline of Marie Curie's life. Every round is another chapter in her own personal story, and the game goes out of its way to tell her amazing life story. Now, it does all this with what is at its heart a very simple and straightforward, streamlined, gateway, family-friendly goods conversion game. You've got these different objectives, recipes you're trying to fulfill to complete the experiments. You've got to grab the right cubes. The cubes you want didn't come out of the tower, so you've got to make decisions about how to convert cubes to other cubes. And it's a good introductory game. I would totally see this working great in a classroom setting, but it's just not, there's not enough going on. It's not quite crunchy enough for me and Jen, which is why it comes in at the bottom of this month's list. But it still might be something you want to check out in the footsteps of Marie Curie. Now let's see what else I can find. Okay, moving on. I am now on the floor. I think I'm in Hall 3. It is early. Not even 8 o'clock yet because I was able to use my press badge to get in before the crowds get in. And it's the calm before the storm, as you might imagine. And I guess that means I got time for a couple more games. Let's talk about number 12 on the list, Conquest Princess, Fashion is Power. Now, this is a very, very cool, what do you call it? It's in the vein of pandemic. Crisis management, I think, is the term that's starting to pop up, where we are space agents of an intergalactic agency trying to stop the spread of evil. And every time you play, you've got basically 3 boards you're on. Your main ship, the Tiara, and you're running around because there's aliens trying to board the ship and just damage all your systems, take your engineering offline or your comms or whatever. But then usually there's also a couple of side boards, like a planet side mission and a space mission. And because this is sci-fi, of course we have teleporters, so we can teleport usually pretty easily from one space to another and fight lots of aliens. This is like the ultimate run-and-gun co-op because you only have 3 actions you can choose from. And on your turn, or your character's turn, you generally have 4 action points to spend. The actions you can do are move from one space to another, adjacently, shoot, and then there's like this bag building system where you pull chips out of the bag and you're hoping for hits instead of misses or critical misses that'll do damage to you. And over the course of the game, every time you get a hit, the hits don't go back in the bag. So over time, your aim gets worse and worse. And you have to spend a lot of time focusing on getting stuff back into the bag so that you'll up your chances of success. And then the third action you could spend an action point on is to interact with whatever zone you're in. If you're on a planet surface and there's some big guns, you can step on board and open fire and be much more powerful than your little pew-pew space lasers. Or if you're on the ship, that's how you can teleport from one place to another if you're in a teleportation area. Or you can repair things or heal or stuff like that. Although the interesting thing about interacting is, after you do it, your turn is over. You do not get to do anything else with your character. So you generally only each turn do one big interaction, and you want that to be the last action you do every turn. So timing is a big part of this game. But an even bigger part is players trying to get their characters to the same spot. Because when you're standing in the space of another character, you've got all of your special powers, and over the course of the game, your characters level up through fashion, by putting on fancy space boots and scarves and stuff like that give you all kinds of special abilities. When you're in the same space as somebody else, you get their special abilities too. So teamwork is a huge part of this game, and coordinating, getting to the right place at the right time, always with that pressure of, okay, I want to interact, but that's got to be my final action of the turn. So there's a lot of really clever stuff. I really liked it a lot. I thought the bag building was very smart. My only complaint, and what keeps it at the lower end, is no matter your player count, even if you're playing solo, all 4 playable characters will always be in the game. And as a 2-player game, that was a lot of upkeep. I really wish the developers had found a way to say, if I'm playing a 2-player game, I just want to control one character. I want to be a hero. I don't want to be a general giving orders to all the heroes. Now, recently, I played, actually I'm going to talk about that later in this list, the new Pandemic Lord of the Rings game. And they came up with a brilliant solution for how to make you feel like you're the hero, even if you control 2 characters. I would love to see something like that applied to this game, because otherwise, the presentation is great. Oh my gosh, this has some of the most deluxe components I've ever seen, including battery-powered light-up standees for when your characters level up and become super versions of themselves. It's a great production. The gameplay is super challenging. If you're looking for a tough co-op, this is one for you. And there's a lot to recommend. I think in the future, if they come up with a way to let me control just one character instead of 2, I would probably want to only play this at higher player count. But if you're looking for a very challenging and very strategic, lots of long-term planning and short-term reacting to the situation at hand, you might want to check out number 12 of the month, Conquest Princess, Fashion is Power. And with that, let's give you one more. Number 11 is R.A.V.E.L. It's actually an acronym, R.A.V.E.L. I did not remember what the acronym stands for. I think the R was for runes. Basically, this is an abstract puzzle game, but it's a solo game only, and it's really, really good. I wish I could play this with my wife, Jen. You can, of course. Players can just work together to solve the puzzle. But it's not as satisfying as, I'm working on my puzzle, you're working on your puzzle, we can help each other out. But what is the puzzle? It's very, very simple. In the middle of your player area, there is the R.A.V.E.L, this rune that you're trying to decipher. It's basically a little grid with a bunch of dice that have been rolled as part of setup. And on each side of this little grid, there is a puzzle card that says, you got to have all the dice on that's next to this card have to total 14 or more. Or they all have to be the same color. Or, those are simple ones, but sometimes they're very complex ones too. And the thing is, on your turn, you're either going to solve one of those cards, because that's what we're trying to do. If you can solve every single card on all 4 sides of this, you win. But the problem is, the dice you've rolled are probably not going to line up with those cards. So, the main thing you're doing most turns is spending resources, and you only have a few of them, to either swap adjacent dice or change the value of dice. And so the trick of this game is being smart. If I recall correctly, I think by default, this is the way you change difficulty, you can increase or decrease the number of chips that let you manipulate the dice. So you only have a few of them, and what's really important is if you get the right dice in the right place and solve one of those side cards, you get an immediate bonus. And the real trick of the game is figuring out the right order to solve these cards, because if I solve this one, it's going to let me, re-roll this other side over here, and maybe that's going to give me the next one. So you can kind of combo chain completion of different code-breaking objectives. It's great. It labels itself as basically the infinitely replayable puzzle, and that's what it is. Because every time you play, you're just going to shuffle out those cards, you're going to roll those dice, and you're going to get a different puzzle to solve with the best way to use all these things in combination. And then on top of that, they weren't done. There are actually two sets of cards. The basic ones with simple little equations to solve, and then the more complex ones. So you can also increase the difficulty by replacing basic ones with more complex ones as well. It's really cool. If I were a hardcore solo gamer, this would be very, very high on my list, because I filmed a run-through, an exclusive run-through for backers of the show on Patreon, and I had a great time playing it. Really, really fun. And I just wish they had come up with rules where, if you buy a second copy, another person could be working on theirs, and there's some kind of, you can use those chips to like swap dice with another player. If they'd done something like that and made it a simultaneous 2-player puzzle to solve, oh my gosh, this would have been in my top 5 of the month. But it is an excellent solo game. It's only dropped down because I'm not a big solo player, which is why R.A.V.E.L comes in at number 11. And now, you know what? I'm going to try and find something new to show you. So let's see what I can get to. Okay, continuing on, we're about to talk on number 10. But first, now that the show is up and running and the halls are starting to fill up quick, I wanted to show you my favorite line that's most worth standing in if you find yourself at UKGE. It's not a very long line compared to some of the ones we get our time here. This is the Shop and Drop booth, where for 3 British euros, or pounds, British pounds, you can get a 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter box and store your stuff. I've already made like 3 pilgrimages here. I think you can actually see my box. If the one was a ton of stuff, it really barely fits in over there. And oh my gosh, it is a lifesaver. My vac would be completely snapped in half if it were not for the Shop and Drop. Well worth the £3. Definitely. And they're a really nice group. If you do come, they warn, get here immediately, because the limited number of boxes they have, they get filled up quick. As you can see, there is a big line of people hoping to store stuff. Anyway, though, that's another little look into like the UK Games Expo. But now let's talk about number 10 on the roundup. It is the City of Myrkesh. And now this is a very interesting deck building game for people like me who love deck building. And I think that probably the thing that makes it stand out more than anything else is this has got to have the most rich and complex cards I've ever seen in a deck builder. Or, I don't know, maybe at least this side of like Magic Realms or something like that. And in fact, my video for it hasn't gone up yet. It will in a week or two. But you might be able to see in what I'm showing over there on the side of the screen, the cards are so complex that the text is very small on those cards. And when I was playing it, I literally had to be wearing these reading glasses to be able to make out what some of them do. And in fact, when it's your turn and you're looking at a table full of 10 face-up cards, trying to figure out which one you want, this game comes with tons of cards. They're all unique combinations of powers, really cool, interesting powers. It is a bit daunting to decide what it is you want to draft and add to your deck for the deck building. But, that's not all. The game also features a board that is a rondel. If you want to recruit the citizens of the city, which means, grab another card and put it in your deck, you've got to travel around the rondel to get to the right area. That requires speed. Every card is multi-use. You can play them and do whatever they say, whether it's very simple stuff like just make some money to buy cards, or power to fight the big dragon, which I'll talk about in a second, or any card, no matter what it does, you can play it sideways to give you speed. You use speed to move, so you can get from place to place to get the cards you want, because each stack of cards has a very different flavor. One makes you move faster, one gives you more money, one gives you more power, one gives you ways to mess with your opponents. And I'll say right now, there's a lot I love here. And while it's a bit daunting to read all that text, once you get the hang of it, it's worth it. Because the depth and complexity of this game is so far above and beyond Dominion or anything inspired by Dominion. So I think for a lot of people, that's going to be very attractive. The problem is, for me and Jen, well, two problems. The big one is, like I said, a not insignificant portion of the cards are ways to mess with your opponent, to swap stuff around and get in their way, and I just kind of wish those weren't there. So you got to know that going in. I mean, there are so many cards, if you really don't want to play that way, you can kind of avoid them, but still, they are a big part of the game. Also, okay, so circling back around, there is a dragon in the center of the board that's attacking the city. You could spend your deck building efforts and time on trying to get money to make more cards, or you could be getting more power to fight the dragon because that's where all the points come from. Oh, not all, cards are worth points too. The tricky thing is when you hit the dragon hits back and throws wound cards in your deck, which is not great because it clogs up your deck. But this game gives you so much flexibility because these wound cards, when they come back around, they're not like curses in Dominion. They're just like a constant annoyance that never go away. When you eventually get those wound cards, you get to heal from them, and that lets you thin out your deck and get rid of the garbage cards. There are a lot of wonderful ideas in this game, and I really like it a lot. I love the running around, the multi-use cards. I can focus on deck building. I can focus on fighting. A lot of cards combo with each other, kind of almost in a Star Realms-y kind of way. But again, a deeper, more complex version of the Star Realms color matchings. And yeah, there is a lot to recommend here. And not for nothing, that big three-headed dragon is an awesome miniature that's a lot of fun, and you want to hit it in the front or the back. That was amazing of that lady's picture of her kids. You want to hit them in the front or the back or the side. Depending on where you hit them, different effects will happen. Some bad for you, some good for your opponent. There's a lot to recommend here. And I mean, really, it is, I'll say it right up front, and I'll say it again, this has got to be some of the heaviest, most complex, crunchy deck building I've ever seen. And so for people who are looking for that, you really do not want to miss out on this one. Yes, you might have to wear your reading glasses, but it's worth the time. My problem again being that there's just a little bit more take that between players than I would like. I've had, Jen and I, we played it a few times, had games where it didn't happen, had games where, these are the cards. I want to use this card to best effect, honey, bye, sorry. I'm going to have best of you now. But if you don't mind that, or heck, you even like it, then you definitely want to check out number 10 of the month, the City of Myrkesh. Alrighty, let's go look at another line. Okay, stepping outside of the main hall where all the games are, look at this line. It's not a particularly pleasant line. What do you think it's for? You can see it right there on the screen. The water refill station. The NEC is a gigantic convention hall, multiple halls here in Birmingham, UK, and yet in the entire place, there are only 2 water refill stations anywhere. There are no water fountains anywhere. And on the day as the UKGE, one of those 2 water filling stations is broken, unfortunately. So if you want to refill your water bottle, you got to wait a while. And I've never seen anything like this. I have not stood in those lines. Between you and me, folks, I've got a little life hack for you. I just take my water bottle into the bathroom and fill it up in the sinks in the bathroom. I know that might be a little gross. Maybe that's too TMI for you, but I mean, look at this. This is my other option. I can't do it. But anyway, now let's talk about number 9 on the list, R.A.V.E.L, which is spelled Y-R-O. I think it's pronounced Eero, but of course, as always, publishers do not put proper pronunciations of their games in the rulebook. Why? Anyway, this is a neat little game that I was very interested in because my wife and I, we tend not to go for what we call dueling wizard games, where players are sitting across from each other, deploying cards to find out the best way to beat each other up. I like the idea of a lot of these games, but they never work for us. Euro looks like a card battle or dueling wizard game, but it's not. It's a Euro in card battle or disguise, and that makes it very attractive. What you're doing on your turn is you got a hand of cards that represent all kinds of different factions and troops that you can recruit from round to round. At the beginning of your turn, you can mulligan if you don't like your hand and dump as many cards as you want and redraw back up to 5. But then, simultaneously, each player is going to choose whether they're going to play 0, 1, or 2 cards from their hand. If they play no cards from their hand, that means they're taking a break this round, and they're just going to make some money so they can afford to play cards later. If they play 1 card from their hand, they get a $1 discount on it. If they pay 2 cards from their hand, then they got to pay full price. And cards can get very expensive very quick. But anyway, once you play your cards, we're trying to build them in a 3x3 battle grid. And every one of these cards has a big combination of unique powers, ways to make money, ways to increase your magic rating or your engineering rating, or technology I think it's called, ways to score points, different effects that can change the situation in the world, all kinds of stuff. But what you want to do is, ultimately, the game is over once somebody finishes a 3x3 grid, or somebody scores 40 points, if I recall correctly. So, before that happens, you are trying to build a grid for you're doing a couple of things. One, whichever card you have at the top of the grid provides their power level, rating, 1 to 6 power, to the next battle. And all these battles is, hey, whoever has the most power scores points. Whoever has the next most power scores fewer points and stuff like that. So there's no direct screwing with each other. We do not hurt each other. We're just competing to have the most power. That's one of many ways to score points. But the other more important element of these cards, if you look at my video right there, because I did a run-through of the games showing the solo mode for backers of my show on Patreon, if you are smart about how you lay out your grid, at the edges of each card, there are 2 different color bands. One that represents the faction the card is with, and one that represents the race, I think, the species, if I recall correctly. And what you want to do is you want to make complete rows or columns of all the same color, because if you do, once you do that, you unlock a big explosion of bonuses from each card. And that's really where the magic lies. This is a fun little jigsaw puzzle of a game, trying to get the right cards, cards that want to rely on other cards to exist, all kinds of things, and build up your little 3x3 grid as fast as possible. Every round potentially scoring points if you win the battle, but maybe you don't care about the battle, you care about the war, because these cards can generate points on their own. There's so much variety, and the beautiful thing is, it goes, since everything's simultaneous, it's equally fast any way you want to play, from solo to 4 players, it's going to be over in like 15 minutes. And you're going to want to shuffle and go again, I guarantee it. And that's really nice. So all that said, those are the good things. Here's what I didn't like about it, and here's what kept it from being higher on the list. One of the factions, the dragons, they're powerful, as you might imagine. Dragons are very powerful. The tricky thing is, they're also simple cards. And, depending on how the game evolves, you might just get a lot of these dragons, and you might pursue a dragon strategy. And a dragon strategy is very simple. Like almost, this game plays itself. Of course I'm going to do this and this and this. There's no real complexity. There's no interactions. Hey, I'm just doing these dragons to get a lot of points, and that's it. And I kind of wish the dragons weren't here, because all the other factions do really cool and interesting things and have intricate ways that you can activate them in all kinds of really fun strategic choices and options. And that's great if you end up following a strategy like that, because you tend to draw those cards. But if you draw dragons, you're just going to be almost sleepwalking through the game. And you have a decent chance of winning. I'm not saying the dragons are overpowered, they're just oversimplified. And so, I am happiest playing this game when I don't draw any dragons. Because if I do, I know, they're just not going to be as much fun to play. I guess they're satisfying because, again, they're super powerful, but they're just not as interesting. And if that faction could have been replaced with something else, like all the other, like the merchant faction and the elvish faction and all these things, I would like it a lot more. I like it quite a bit. Another thing I would say is it has a nice solo mode, but the solo mode is a bit too easy. There would be a really easy tweak where instead of your automated opponent, drawing 1 card every turn to build up its power, if it just drew 2 cards every turn and had to build up twice as much power to trigger the end of the game, that would be, I think, a house variant for solo that would make it very engaging. But as it is, the solo works, it's fun, but it's way too easy to win. But that's not a problem if you're playing with 2 or more players, and I think you will enjoy it. If you're looking for what looks like a Dueling Wizard card battler game, but is not. It's more akin to a Euro with a lot of, potentially, depending on what cards you get, a lot of fun, crunchy decisions. You might want to check out YRO. Okay, I don't know what's going to be next. We'll see. Okay, after complaining a little bit about some of the facilities, let me switch it up and heartily recommend something about the NEC, and it's that right there. Free Wi-Fi every place in this gigantic convention hall, and that is fantastic. I've been to Essen, I've been to Gen Con, I've been a lot of places. I don't think I've seen that very often as an offer. Although, amazingly, you don't need it anywhere. In the deepest depths of the biggest hall, mobile reception has been fantastic here at the NEC. But still, I'm happy to save my battery power and use their Wi-Fi, which seems to be pretty good and pretty stable. So that's a nice touch. I doff my cap to the NEC. But now let's continue with the countdown, folks. Number 8 on the list was a sponsored preview I did for the new edition of Trismegistus. Yes, Trismegistus is back. After, half a decade when its first edition came out, it has reappeared with a huge makeover. Oh my gosh, the game is so pretty. It was never a looker before. I guess you could say it had sort of a spare austerity to it, let's just say. But now it is drop-dead gorgeous. It is as pretty as the gameplay was fun. And that's saying something, because Trismegistus is a very, very cool game. Although I don't think it ever really caught on for publisher Board and Dice back in the day, because, again, not only was it not a looker, but the gameplay was incredibly complex. And I don't think the industry was maybe as ready back then for gameplay this dense and deep. But now it is, although I should say, the developers have taken a lot of steps to streamline the gameplay quite a bit. And while I personally miss some of the biggest elements of the original game, most notably the lack of players being able to follow each other and duplicate actions, that has been excised, which is a big loss. But on the other hand, it probably cuts at least 30% off the overall game length. So I can't complain. Oh my gosh, a spider is apparently hanging from my hair. Over there, happy little spider. There we go. Okay, the spider's fine, folks. I have no idea how. It's in the middle of this big, whatever. So I don't know what that says about the NEC facilities, that if you sit still long enough, spiders will start dangling from your hair. But anyway, Trismegistus has gone through a lot of changes. You can check out my preview. I actually talk quite a bit about the differences. What's better, what I do miss. I can say overall, my wife likes the game much, much more. She did not like the original Trismegistus at all. This one she ranked quite highly. So it's definitely worth checking out. It's still crowdfunding right now. That's number 8, Trismegistus. And then if we go on to number 7, folks, we get Trismegistus, the Roll and Write, the new edition. Yes, I did not do a sponsored playthrough for this. The Board and Dice only wanted me to cover the main game, but when they sent me the prototype for the new edition of Trismegistus, they sent me a prototype for the new edition of the Roll and Write. And I'm here to tell you, folks, it's better than Trismegistus. Trismegistus is already great, but this is one of the, not the crunchiest, but it is definitely probably in the top 5 heaviest, crunchiest roll and writes I've ever played. It is up there with Pandoria Merchants and the Twilight Imperium roll and write that came out a few years ago. It's got a lot going on. And at its heart, it's still got the same idea. We are alchemists, drafting dice to use them either for their metal symbol to gather more metals, or using it to grab experiments and artifacts, right? All while trying to do the research to create the Philosopher's Stone. All the theme is still there, but turned into a roll and write. It is lighter than Trismegistus because several things have been cut. Most notably, the idea of potency. That if you grab a die out of a depot that has a lot of dice, it's very powerful and you get to use it more. That's gone. And the idea that, if somebody else grabbed a red die, now if anybody else wants a red die, they get implicitly weaker. That's gone. Whenever you grab a red die, a white die, or a black die, it's always going to have the same power no matter what. It's just that you only have so many uses of them every round, and it's only like 3 rounds. Each round, I think you're going to get 2 dice. So overall, it's a fairly quick game, or it should be. but it's so big and so many moving parts. Because okay, I just mentioned what they removed from Trismegistus. What did they add? Well, the biggest thing is, there's still the mastery tracks for the 4 elements. The essences are gone. You do not need essences to transmute. And in fact, when you transmute, you no longer have to spend resources. It's just like you literally create something out of nothing. That's a really interesting big change to the game. That you don't have to spend stuff to complete experiments. You don't have to spend stuff to transmute. You just do it and create more stuff so you can just speed up your overall engine, which is very satisfying and a big change from the original game. And you're still working up the mastery tracks by, using artifacts and whatnot. Although this game, you don't own artifacts. The artifacts, they're associated with a given color, and the experiments are associated with a different color. There's always 2 of them out there, and as soon as somebody uses one of them, both the artifact and the experiment of that color are eliminated and replaced by new ones. So this is much more a game of grabbing opportunities when you can. This is not a game of spending several turns building up so you've got the right resources. So boom, I can do this big experiment. This is all about, okay, can I get enough stuff to do that experiment right now? Because next turn, it's probably going to be gone. So it just has a overall faster vibe and tempo to it. Let's see. Oh, the biggest thing I think it adds, because I talked about several things that it streamlines out, is a new concept that for each mastery track, there's also a knowledge bonus, because we're no longer just, when we complete experiments, we're not just, taking books and putting them on a grid to unlock bonuses like the original. Instead, we're drawing polyomino tiles into a grid, trying to fill up as much of the Philosopher's Stone grid as we can. But that doesn't do us any good to fill all those spaces up unless we get knowledge about the different, elements, the earth, wind, air, and earth, air, fire, and water. And it really incentivizes you to mix and match. While original Trismegistus, you could go pretty far focusing on one thing. The new Trismegistus incentivizes, diversification, and the roll and write demands diversification because you need to do complementary experiments in different elements to be able to unlock the bonuses of the grid that you're filling up with all those polyomino pieces. Folks, I'm just scratching the surface on this. It is a big, epic, relatively speaking, because it's a roll and write, but it is a huge experience. It really grinds your gray matter in the best way, and honestly, again, I think it's actually better than its big brother. And its big brother, regular Trismegistus, is already very good. So that comes in at number 7 of the month, Trismegistus Roll and Write. If you like roll and writes and you're looking for something much heavier and crunchier than what we normally get, you want to check it out. Okay, now I got a 10-minute walk to get back to the convention hall and tell you about a few more games. All right, let's go. Okay, I'm just kind of hanging out at the Ravensburger booth waiting to talk to a PR lady over there who's in another meeting because I really want to pick up a copy of Sandcastles of Burgundy because I had to complete my entire Feld collection run-through series. I'm the only person on board in the media who's covered every single Feld game. I'm not going to stop now, even though Sandcastles is actually, for kids. But I'm waiting a few minutes, so I figured that gives me some time to talk about number 6 on the list this month, Boreal, which, oh my goodness, folks, this is such a wonderful little 2-player-only card drafting pyramid building game. It's the far future. We are explorers, and we are basically spending our knowledge of the area to buy cards and build a pyramid. You'll start on a base, more and more, higher and higher. And the cards we're getting, they do all kinds of stuff. Most importantly, they potentially score points if they're surrounded by things, or if they're not next to things, or or they generate more money, so that you'll be able to buy more cards later, and all that stuff. And they're gorgeous, by the way. Everything in this game is just drop dead gorgeous. But what makes the game really interesting is the intertwinedness of the draft and money. The more money, basically, if you look there on the screen, Jen and I, by the way, we played a playthrough of this for supporters of the show on Patreon. It's an exclusive. Basically, you've got a meter that shows how much money or knowledge you've got to spend. The further you are along that meter, the more cards you have access to get, because the more knowledge you have, of course. But then, once you spend 3 or 4 or whatever to buy something, your knowledge reservoir falls, and that means on a future turn, you have less access to cards. You might only have access to 1 or 2 cards instead of 4 or 5. And so, that's a really interesting balancing act, switching back and forth, saving up for a lot of money so you can buy the new cards that just showed up, but then, oh crap, I burned all my cash and now I'm broke, which is why, in addition to trying to get cards for points and, facilitating other cards and all that, these cards also can generate money on their own. But the trick is, only while they are at the top of a pyramid. Once they get covered up, they don't generate money for you anymore. So that's another pressure point that you might have set up an awesome money building engine so you can buy whatever you want, but sooner or later you have to cover all those up, and that's going to slow you back down. It's an incredibly simple, elegant system, and both Jen and I liked it quite a bit. If you get a chance, check out number 6 of the month, Boreal. Okay, now I'm coming to you from the UK Bring Buy, which I believe I read somewhere that this is the biggest event of its type in England, but it might have been the biggest event of its type in all of Europe, I think, maybe. Although, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you told me it's the biggest event of its type in the world, because behind me, there are thousands and thousands of games that have been brought here by folks. In fact, there's some people right over there bringing their games in. They've got this really great system where you enter your games, you set your price, you write a description if you want to. They print out stickers. You get them over here, you put them on, and then they put them on the shelves. And then people can do a search for games they're looking for and whatnot. And now, this has been around forever. I'm pretty sure I covered this back when I did the UK Games Expo so many years ago. But I wanted to give you a pro tip. If you're ever going to come here and you're thinking about doing this program, I have read on Board Game Geek that for people who thought, oh, we're going to get ahead of the curve and actually put our games into the system the day before. The convention starts on Friday, but you can get here and do your stuff on Thursday evening. And people who did that were waiting for an hour and a half to drop their games off. But then I saw people who came in on Friday early in the morning straight away to try to beat the rush. They were waiting anywhere from 90 minutes to 3 hours to drop their games off. And they're very unhappy. Hopefully they get sales. But I'm here on Saturday, which, by the way, is the busiest day of the convention. And as you can see, there's no line at all. You just walk right up. It takes you less than 5 minutes to get your stickers, get them into the system. So if you ever think about doing this, I know you're going to be inclined to say, oh, I got to beat the rush so I don't have to wait in line. Everybody thinks that. That's what everybody's doing, and you will be miserable. So instead, wait till Saturday, give your games a good price, and then come back at the end of the show on Sunday and get your money or your games back. Oh, another thing I found out, by the way, I was just talking to them about the specifics. If your game doesn't sell, but you don't come back to get it, they end up selling them via some other means, because this is all a charitable operation. Everything here goes to a new charity every year. So that was very cool as well. I just think this is absolutely awesome and probably one of the big draws of the show. But anyway, folks, you want to hear about number 5 now, I think, right? Yes, it is Treetopia. And I gotta say, folks, this really surprised me. This is a game where we are trying to transplant different fanciful, almost fantastical trees from environments that are not suitable for life. They're freezing, they're polluted, they're arid deserts, and basically we're trying to get these trees into a beautiful arboretum so they can try and score points. And now here's what really makes this game stand out. This is a communal area building game. Most of the games Jen and I play these days, it's always, no, I'm building my little 3x3 or 4x4 or 5x6 grid of whatever it might be. But in this game, nope. We are both planting trees to the same arboretum. And that can always be a big problem for me and Jen, because usually in a game like that where there's a communal building space, sooner or later, players are going to start cutting each other off. And, the classic Carcassonne move of, oh, you've got a really high-scoring road there. It'd be a real shame if I happen to make a corner over here and then connect to your road and snag half your points. Moo-ha-ha. That's not our bag, baby. So I was a little nervous about Treetopia. I'm not building my own arboretum. I'm sharing one with you. But here's the thing about this design. It's so brilliant because of this is a competitive game, but obviously we're all trying to do a good thing. So the main way you score points by getting your trees in there is by putting a type of tree, snaking them around. Oh, there's one of the curly trees. I put a second curly tree, I score it plus the first one. I put a third curly tree in the line, connecting the first two, I score 3 points. I put a fourth one, I score 4 points, and that's the best you can do. Then you gotta start another snake somewhere else. But here's the thing. If I'm the one to put the last one in and I get the big 4 points, you get something too. You get to unlock one of your various bonus power actions that let you do things like take an extra turn when you need to, or draw 3 and keep 1 rather than just drawing blind from the deck. So that's awesome, and I really appreciate this. Is a much more Care Bear probably the most Care Bear friendly version of this style of tableau building game I've ever seen. But that's not all. The actual engine that drives it is great too. You have 3 cards in front of you. You're trying to find a home for all these trees. And each tree has its own combination of factors it needs to be able to be planted in the arboretum. I have to have 4 desert environments in front of me, or I have to have 3 of the same, or whatever. Lots of different objectives. So what you're doing is on your turn, you are grabbing a tree, either drawing blind, or taking one from the open display, and then hopefully whatever tree you got, you can make that the 4th tree, and that will fulfill the needs of one of those 4 trees, and that means you can plant the tree and score points. Now, if you can't, sometimes you'll grab a tree, like if you're drawing blind, and I can't plant this tree. I can't plant any of my existing trees. At that point, you have to take one of those 4 trees and put them into the public display, which means somebody else could get them later. And so you are constantly pivoting. I think I've got this. I just can't get this tree planted. Okay, I give up on this tree. I'm getting rid of that tree and I'm adjusting it to do another one, but then it's still out there. Maybe later on I can get it. It's a fun, puzzly little draft meets recipe fulfillment, a really nice twist on it. I love that. I love the art. I love the theme. And most of all, I love actually communal building a space with Jen where we're actually playing nice with each other and benefiting each other rather than trying to screw each other over. So that makes Treetopia a keeper for us, and it comes in at number 5 of the month. Treetopia. Alrighty. What's next? I have no idea. Let's go. So I thought I was going to take a city bus to get back to my Airbnb, but after I got all my haul out of the storage spot, it turned out to be quite a bit. That's got to be at least 30 kilos of games, and I had to schlep all that stuff all the way through the halls out to where the bus pickup was, and I saw the buses, but then over to the right, I saw this taxi cab, and I said, I am too old to try to save 6 pounds for a 10-minute cab ride versus a 40-minute bus ride. So I'm living in the lap of luxury at the moment, folks, and that's as good a time as any to tell you my number 4 of the month, which is Ofrenda. And oh my gosh, this is such a lovely, lovely little drafting game. I've already done a run through for it, so you can see that, but it's so pretty. We're basically trying to make a memorial to our lost loved ones, which is called an Ofrenda. It's on the Day of the Dead, and every round we're going to draft a card and put it in a slot on our Ofrenda. But every one of the portraits of our departed have very specific requirements. They want to be next to certain things, or they want to not be next to certain things. And I am trying to get the display perfect for everybody, because when a given portrait is surrounded, it will light up with a candle, i.e. I'll flip the card over if its needs have been met, and that's how you score points. Now to draft, it borrows very much from the old classic Small World. Hey, if there's something I want, I gotta pay marigolds to skip over the ones I didn't want to get to the one I want, and now the things I skipped over become more valuable. That's always a great mechanism. I'm surprised we don't see it more often. It's so good, and it's put to good use here. But what's really great about this game, besides the art, which is wonderfully charming, is the super tense puzzle. This seems like a really kind of lightweight gateway game, but it is not. It is incredibly crunchy because you can put any card anywhere you want. Oh, also there's bonus points to be had for drafting candles and putting them between the right types of cards, and also giving up your money and putting those out on the marigold flowers. There's a lot going on here. You can watch my run through as I try to puzzle my way through as best I can. It's great as a two-player game, and it's a pretty fun solo game too. This is actually, I think, thus far, midway through 2025, one of the best games Jen and I have played this year. I put it right up there with the Azules of the world. And if you were to put this and Azul in front of me, I would play this 10 ways to Sunday. It's absolutely wonderful. My number 4 of the month, Ofrenda. And now I'm just going to relax a little bit and get back to that Airbnb. Oh my gosh. Okay, I am back in my little Airbnb room, which is very nice, very lovely. Wonderful host that put me up here for a few days. And yeah, folks, I don't know. Do people still do haul videos after they get back from convention, or pictures they post on social media? It's been a long time since I've had a haul, but I do have one today. So let's just take a quick look at it before we go to number 3. Although this haul, folks, this is a problem. There's a bunch of games here, as you can see, and these will not all fit in the one piece of luggage and one backpack I've got. Are too heavy, I am sure, so I got a 20 kilogram limit, but more importantly, they simply won't fit. So folks, I'm afraid I'm going to have to do some very bad things to those boxes. I'm going to have to get on a knife and cut them up so that they can collapse down to nothing. Maybe I'll show you the end results, or maybe you just don't want to see it. But anyway, before we get to that, we got to talk about number 3 on the monthly list, which is The Fate of the Fellowship. Now, there's no better way to sum this up than Pandemic meets Lord of the Rings, because it is from Pandemic design superstar Matt Leacock, revisiting his award-winning formula and doing some very interesting new things with it that I think are very, very appropriate considering the source material, the subject matter he's tackling. Yes, you've got a certain number of actions you can play every turn. Yes, you're running around the board fighting fires. In this case, it's not the spread of pandemic cubes. Instead, it's the spread of these fun little cube-sized meeples that represent the forces of darkness trying to take over Middle Earth. And we play as characters with all kinds of cool special powers. And like we've seen in some other Pandemic spin-offs, we get missions, objectives. It's not always, hey, just cure 4 diseases. It's do 3 things and then cure 1 disease. The final quest every time you play is going to be destroy the One Ring by throwing it into Mount Doom. And actually, that final objective works very, very much like destroying or eradicating a virus in Pandemic. But the other 3 you have to do before you destroy the One Ring. They add so much variety. There are so many different ones that come with the game, and they're really going to make it feel different from game to game. And also, there is a metric boatload of playable characters. I don't know if this game ever needs an expansion. It has so much more content in it right out of the gate. It's kind of on par with all the stuff you got in the Pandemic Legacy games, which is like a game plus a lot of expansions built in. And this is certainly the most epic Pandemic has ever been. Which is amazing. It's the most thematic Pandemic has ever been. And it does some very, very cool things. What I'm most impressed by is the fact that no matter how many players are in the game, each player always controls 2 characters, which is normally a recipe for disaster. I can't stand that. But in this game, it's brilliant because basically what happens is, unlike regular Pandemic where you get 4 actions a turn, in this game you get 5. 4 of them are done by one of your character, and 1 is done by the other. And so that means from turn to turn, round to round, you might think of one character as your lead, your superstar, and the other character, they're just doing a couple of things here and there, not really stepping in the limelight until everything shifts. And now, hey, it used to be all about Galadriel, but now she falls behind, and I'm really focusing on Gollum and what he can do to help win the game. But then maybe Galadriel stages a comeback and she's the star again for a while. It's so smart.
It's not my favorite pandemic. For two reasons. One, it has more pick up and deliver than any pandemic has ever had before, and that's not my favorite thing. But it's not that big a deal. The other thing is that I really do find myself missing the jet setting, being able to discard a card to just fly wherever I need to go. But hey, actually, I talked to Matt Leacock about this here at the UK Games Expo, and what his thought process was, behind the changes he made to the core formula, and specifically that feature, my favorite feature of Pandemic, going, and the changes it makes. And he said, yeah. It was like one of the first decisions I made because this is all about the fellowship, traveling through the world a la Token. And if you've read those books, they're like 50% travelogues, just them walking from place to place to place. So, it was almost required to reflect that in the gameplay. They do not jet set around. They do not just discard a card and fly out to Atlanta or whatever. So that really kind of changes the feel and the speed. But what they've done is to enhance the idea of fellowship, you can still travel quickly if you team up with other characters, either your own, get them both into the same spot, or get other players' characters in the same spot as you, and then you can basically work together to travel faster than you could on your own. So it kind of makes up for the loss of jet setting, which again is one of my favorite things, maybe my favorite thing about Pandemic. The game is fantastic. My wife and I both love it to pieces. It is definitely a keeper, in spite of the fact that it's the most pick up and deliver of Pandemic has ever been, in spite of the fact that I miss that one really cool central element that's always been my favorite thing. It's a Tolkien lover's dream. It's a co-op lover's dream. And my wife said it is the best Lord of the Rings game she's ever played, and we've played a lot of them. Maybe we've even played most of them over the years. So, highly recommended. Coming in at number 3 is Lord of the Rings: Fate of the Fellowship. And now I got to get to work on that big stack of games. It's just mocking me. How will I make it fit? Oh, wish me luck, folks. Okay, it took a couple of hours, but I finally got it done. And I cheated, folks. I could not bring myself to actually take a knife to the game boxes so that I could super flatten them out and all of that. I did punch everything and got rid of, all the chit boards. And that cleared out, I think, like 3 kilograms of weight, which was pretty good. That I wouldn't be able to pull it off otherwise. So that was an endeavor well spent. But here is the final results. Everything in my one big carry-on and my backpack, which is now stuffed so full it won't fit under my Ryanair seat. So I cheated and paid, I think, 24 euros to be able to have another carry-on bag. And I'll just use one of these shopping bags. And this is basically super lightweight because it's nothing but empty boxes. Basically, what a biggest thing I did was my big boxes, I got rid of inserts where I could, and, did everything punching and basically tried to compress them so that they're boxes of mostly air. And then I put all the small games inside the big game boxes, nested within nested type stuff. And in the end, it worked out pretty well. And I could have made it happen. I just didn't really want it. I didn't want to cut with the boxes. I couldn't do it. But anyway, that's the update on that. And now let's talk about number 2 of the month, Suna Valo. Oh my goodness, talk about a phenomenal game. It actually came out in 2024, and I don't think many people saw it. I believe it's getting wider distribution this year. Maybe it was from Capstone. I don't remember for sure. But folks, watch for this. This is the thematic sequel to another game from Ode Odal, one of the best heavy Euro designers working today. He's part of the team behind La Granja and many other games beside. His first game was Planta Nubo, which is a very nice game, although I had a couple of little problems with it. And now he's made a smaller 2-player only, very, very clever Euro, all about, drafting cards, setting a price for them by paying for them, but then not getting them immediately. Instead, after you get the card and you pay for it, paying whatever you want. Oh, I'll pay a couple cubes for this. I'll pay a cardboard shit for that, whatever. It doesn't go directly into your supply. Instead, it goes into a public auction where your opponent could buy it from you. And if they don't, because they've got other stuff to do, then on your subsequent turn, you can take it and finish your transaction and put it into your area, which is awesome because once you have done that, it activates itself and every other card of the same color. So it's a very satisfying engine building game with a really nice twist on, the economics of this. It's very interactive because I might put a price on a thing, not actually wanting it for myself, but knowing you want it and trying to guess how much would you be willing to pay for it so that you will pay me. Or if I want to protect something that you won't, so you won't be able to take it, well, I notice, oh, you don't have any of the blue resource. Okay, I can just put a single blue resource on here and you can't buy it from me and I'll get it next turn. It's super duper sharp. The presentation is great. There's actually a lot of other great elements besides what I just talked about. I'm just kind of hitting the big notes, but you can check out my run through to see more. It's totally a keeper. Jen loved it too. It's number 2 of the month, the second best game, Suna Valo. Oh, watch for it, folks, coming soon. Alrighty, we've got one more. I do not know what I'm going to film. Actually, I think I've got an idea.
Hey everybody, we have finally made it to the number 1. And what I was going to film for you was a quick ride on the tram, the train that connects the NEC Convention Center here in Birmingham to the Birmingham Airport. But it turns out the ride was so short and it was so packed that I did not want to annoy my neighbors on the tram. So I am now just sitting out here waiting outside of Gate 56, which is under renovation, so there's no place to sit in there. So you can see people are just, sit on the floor, but I got lucky. I found a seat that I get to sit on while waiting for the boarding, and then I get to go home and see Den and be very, very happy and try to reassemble all my games that I've taken apart and mixed up in a million different ways to get under the weight limits and all that. But that's a problem for tomorrow. Although my problems for today were legion. On today, the last day, I have all this walking to do to get to the airport and stuff like that. One of the wheels on my big piece of luggage broke. So I've not been rolling it around. I have been dragging it around. And it's pretty much nothing more than a big noisemaker now. But it all worked out. And I'll get in there after I tell you about the number 1 game. Although, I should say, if you're at all interested in the UK Games Expo and this whetted your appetite, because I admit I've been covering like some weird offbeat subjects, there's going to be a link down in the show notes or at the end of this video to go watch the UKGE video I did almost a decade ago. And honestly, the convention hasn't changed that much other than it's gotten bigger. So you can really enjoy that too if you want to get some more UK Games Expo. But anyway, enough of that. The number 1 game of May was Strange World Above the Clouds. And it is very likely you have not heard of this game, and that's a shame. At a very small print one in 2024, I think it got released at Spiel. I have not covered it, but thanks to the channel that did, because I can be able to put something on screen, a link for their channel will be down in the show notes as well. The link for everything I've showed you today, folks, is down in the show notes, in case you didn't know. But anyway, what is this game? It is another one of these, hey, I'm going to get some cards and put them in a tiny, tight little grid of cards. This time it's a 4x4 grid to score points. The drafting is pure Sushi Go 7 Wonder style. Start around, you get drafted free, you get dealt 3, you keep 1, hand the 2 over, and then you get 1 from the next player or the same player back. And then you have 3 cards, and you have to play all 3 of them to the grid. However you find is the best way to do that. And the game is over once both players have made their 4x4 grids, and we tally points. The trick is there are some really wicked restrictions to how you lay these cards out. Lakes cannot go next to lakes. There can't be more than 1 swamp on a given row. Volcanoes can only be placed if there is a card adjacent to them that they could destroy. And anytime you find yourself with a card, because remember, in this draft, you don't have control over everything you get. The last card you get is handed to you. And you might get a card that, oh, I can't legally place this card anywhere. Well, that's fine. You're going to place it anyway, but it's going to go face down. It's going to be called the Zimmy, these world-eating monsters that don't score you any points, except in certain special cases where you can try to make them work. But it's just a brilliant, fast-playing, this is like a 10, 15-minute game's top, no matter the player count, because it's simultaneous play. Actually, that's not true. what's supposed to happen after the simultaneous drafting is done, you're supposed to, everybody's supposed to play their cards in turn order, but that will double, triple, or quadruple the length of the game. There's no reason to do that. Just let everybody play in order. The reason they do that is because, hey, if certain cards, trigger, there's a collection of bonus stuff you can grab, and turn order matters in case multiple people try to grab those bonuses at the same time. There's this really cool thing that one volcano destroying a card is bad, but then if you get a second volcano and destroy a second card, where the two destroyed areas are, a dark city can be arise, and that's one of the biggest source of points. But if two players do it at the same time, who gets the best dark city? Well, at that point, you can just look at player order and just resolve it. There's no reason not to do this completely simultaneous, because then it is a 10-minute game. The first time we got this out, Jen and I played 3 games back-to-back, and we're happy to play more. This game is so freaking good, it has now pushed its way into my top 10 games for 2024. It is absolutely phenomenal, and in fact, I think I rated higher than Castle Combo, another really sharp, fast-playing, draft cards to build your own little tableau thing, but this one is even better. The puzzle of how to get these things laid out is brilliant. The speed is amazing. The presentation is wonderful. And the variability, the experience you get from game to game, there is a lot of replayability built into my number 1 game of the month, Strange Planet Above the Clouds. And okay, folks, that is it. Oh, the line is getting longer. Fortunately, I have a priority pass because I ultimately had to break down and get a second check bag because, as I mentioned earlier, I did not want to do surgery to my games. And at this point, I guess in closing, I will mention again, in case you skipped it, that if you'd like to hear some more about the UKGE, there's going to be a link appearing on screen with other stuff, and you can go watch the video I did, 8 years or so ago, and I dive deep into all the different elements. But hopefully, you've enjoyed this additional look at UKGE, and as always, I will be back again next month, folks, to count down a bunch more games. Probably a bunch of games that I picked up here at the convention. I had a great time. Everybody who helped me get from one end of this thing to the other, thank you so much. I have always depended on the kindness of strangers, never more so than this convention. I'm going to have a lot of stories to tell Jen when I get home. But anyway, folks, thanks for watching and also for supporting the show if you do. See you next month. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.